Hi everyone, I'm Tony Fianacca from Sparks Florist. I'm here today to talk to you about how to make different types of cube arrangements. It's one of my favorite arrangements to make. You can see I have a couple of really pretty ones here. Of course, my favorite rose one over here, this is actually 5 dozen roses that we've done in a cube, and really, really beautiful. And the question is, how do we get all those roses to stand in there perfectly? And the same thing over here with our nice little fall arrangement. How do we get all those flowers to sit in there perfectly? Well, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how to do this one over here, this fall arrangement. And the first thing I've done, I went through and I built my grid. So this is my greened arrangement. Please make sure to watch our previous video on how to make all different types of greening grids in the previous video. You'll see here that I have this one pre-done, and I've added in really 3 different types of greenery. I have some really beautiful seeded eucalyptus, I have some salal, and I also have just a little bit of this really nice Oregonia. So we have really pretty textures in there, and some yellows and some greens and a little bit of grays. From here, the arrangement really is pretty nice because our grid is nice and solid, so we can actually add all of the flowers separately, and they should fit in here nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and add them on my side, and then I'll turn it around so you can see what we're doing. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to try to choose the flowers that have lots of what I call grid factor, or a really high grid factor, and those are flowers that have lots of breaks off of a central stem. And again, this is just going to help strengthen that foundation, that grid that we're working with, and it's going to keep all of our other flowers from rotating around in that vase, which is really, a pain in the neck. So I'm also looking for any types of leaves that I don't like, and I'm going to go ahead and pick those off. But I'm going to go ahead and add in this Solidago. Notice one of the other really important things I've done, really even before I started, was I laid out each of my flowers so I could see how much I had of each flower type. So the Solidago is now in. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add in some of this Hypericum berry. You might also know it as St. John's wort. So it's actually used in Asian cultures for medicinal purposes. Who'd have thunk? And in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take off some of this foliage. And the reason why is because this is going to be what turns brown first, and I really don't want to have that greenery look bad, so I'm going to go ahead and take it off. And I'm going to go ahead and add it so it's opposite where my Solidago is. My Solidago, if I was to take a bird's eye view of this, we'd see the Solidago kind of forms a triangle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the Hypericum berries in the in-between portions of that triangle. So I'll go ahead and add this in. So I have one right here, I have one right here. My next one will go right over here. And again, I'm just taking off all these leaves. That way we don't see when they turn kind of gross colors. And these berries last a really nice long time, so they're a great little flower to work with. Whenever I think of fall bouquets, I like to think of different textures to use. Fall is a very textural time of the year, so it's not necessarily really everything soft. So it's okay to have lots and lots of different textures. So the Hypericum berry is now in. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add in my dahlias, and these are great summertime flowers. You can get them through the summer and part way into the fall. And whenever I'm looking at different flowers, especially ones that have small little buds like this, I don't want to just take this and throw this away. This is a great little additional element that I can add into that arrangement. It gives me more texture. So you can see just a little bit more in there. And in this arrangement, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add my dahlias kind of all in one little grouping. So I'm kind of just positioning the flower where I want it. And then again, I have a couple of little buds, so I'm going to cut those off. I'm going to place them right in here. And I'll do the same thing here. Oh, and it looks like I had a petal that's not good. All right. So I have 1, 2, and 3. 3 little dahlias kind of hanging out in that arrangement. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add in this fun flower. It's actually, it's called Leucadendron, and the variety name for it is called Safari Sunset. It comes in lots of different colors, but it's more of a tropical flower, believe it or not. But it's kind of fun because it has kind of tan coloration towards the top, and of course like more of a limey green kind of color mixed in with it. So it's really kind of a perfect blend for fall. Really, really nice. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add in some of my lavender roses. And with the roses, what you want to really look for here is you want to go ahead and take off any petals that have any sort of bruising or damage to them. It's okay to do this. If you remember, the most outside petals are what we call the guard petals. They help guard the actual flower, and they do bruise, so that's something that you do have to take off, typically when you're going to give it to a customer. If it was me personally, I would leave them on, since they do protect the flower. If you leave it on, it will allow the flowers to last a little bit longer. But since it is going to somebody who I have to assume doesn't know as much about flowers, I want to make sure they don't think the flower is dead and dying. So I'm going to go ahead and just take off those petals if I think there's any sort of blemish on it. And look how pretty that's turning out to be. Next, I'm going to go ahead and take my larkspur, which is this flower here, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it at an angle, and I'm going to kind of establish my height here. Notice this is really the only line flower I'm using, and I saved it to the very end. And line flowers typically like to rotate in arrangements. That's really why I like to add them last. Not everyone does, and there's no real specific rule on whether you have to add it first or last. You can do it in whichever order you like, but like I say, what you really want to do is you want to make sure you have a nice strong grid before you start really adding anything that might rotate on you. All right, and you can see I'm just kind of placing this larkspur in here. And this one I think I can actually get maybe 2 cuts out of it, so I'm going to go ahead and use it to my fullest advantage. All right, so you can see I'm kind of adding all of my larkspur at little different heights, but the one common thing is they all kind of sit in a similar region in the design. And then I'm not going to waste any of my flowers. This is really important. A lot of people forget to use all these smaller sprigs. They add such pretty texture. You want to make sure to add it into your design. Sometimes these will gain a little bit of color over time, so you might actually find that your flower arrangement gets more colorful if you do something like this. Now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add in some fall leaves into my design. And what I've done here, let me go ahead and show you how this works, is I've taken some leaves and I'm just going to kind of group them in my hand, like so. And then I'm going to take a little bit of wire and I'm going to stab it through the leaves, straight through. And then I'm going to fold the wire down. The next thing I'll do is I'll take my corsage tape, and I'm going to go ahead and tape this all together. So that way my leaves will stay as one unit. Again, fall is all about adding different textures, so having something like this is perfect. And it's going to add so much color to this arrangement. It's going to make it really look a lot like kind of mirroring the textures of those dahlias. You can see it there. So then we'll go ahead and add some up here towards the top, maybe some around here towards the back, and kind of throughout the design. All right. This is how you'd make a cube arrangement. Really pretty, and notice I tried to choose colors that were contrasting to one another in nice fall tones. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to call me or email me at tonyjr@sparksflorist.com. My phone number is 775-358-8500, extension 103.